And all the little, the newscasters and shit were like, we have footage. There it is. And they showed the footage. Sitting in the chair next to his girlfriend, which I didn't know he had a girlfriend. I thought he was married. I thought that was some gangster shit. And some woman just sat next to him and he said, yeah. And then she got up and left. And then cut back to the news anchors and they were like, unbelievable.
Omar Gooding just shook the table in his latest interview, dropping some heavy claims about Jay-Z and Diddy framing his brother, Cuba Gooding Jr. And if that wasn't enough, he came for Jaguar Wright too, calling her out for spreading lies.
I was just like, just fact check that shit. She was like, well, Omar did some shit for the part and Tyrese wouldn't. But they best friends. They've been in 3 other movies together. That don't even make sense.
Yo, Omar Gooding just dropped a bombshell during his Real Life Productions interview. And let me tell you, he wasn't holding back. First off, Omar made it super clear that he and his brother Cuba Gooding Jr. ain't the same. Just because they're your sibling don't mean they was cut from the same cloth, he said, letting the world know he's not here to take heat for his brother's actions. And honestly, respect. A lot of folks love to lump people together like they're one and the same, but Omar wasn't having it. He was like, yeah, that's my blood, but don't get it twisted. I'm my own man. But what really got people talking was how he flipped the script on accusers. Omar straight up said these folks be getting away with murder because they're out here making wild claims and nobody ever checks them for it. He was heated about how some people can throw out lies and walk away scot-free while everyone else is left picking up the pieces. And then came the name drop that had everyone shook, Jaguar Wright. Omar went off about how Jaguar's been running her mouth for years, exposing people left and right. But here's the kicker. He said, yeah, she's got some receipts, but let's not act like everything she says is gospel. She be lying half the time, but y'all act like she's the oracle just because she got a couple things right, Omar said, basically calling out the double standards.
Just all the energy I'm gonna give to that because it was so egregious. I have a problem with y'all. We can move furniture if we need to. You got to check them when they say something wrong. Yeah, when I be watching these other interviews, say something that's just not wrong and right in their opinion, but just factually wrong. You got to say, well, hold on. Can we talk about what sense it makes? She made a statement towards my father who is deceased and John Singleton who is deceased. Neither one of them could defend themselves. We ain't gonna go there. We ain't gonna go how egregious both of those statements were. But then you want to just paint the picture that Omar Gooding is on some suspect shit, and I ain't been on nobody's list and I never will. Period. You ain't gonna find me but they gonna release the list. Well, you ain't gonna see Omar on there. You might see Cuba Gooding Jr. on there only because I'm not Cuba Gooding Jr. Just because they're your sibling don't mean you was cut from the same cloth.
Now this is where it gets spicy. Omar didn't just come for Jaguar, he also turned the spotlight on Real Life Productions. He called out the interviewers for not keeping it real when their guests start wilding out.
Do you feel like right now there's a witch hunt for black celebrities?
It's not even right now, it's been happening for a while. What I want them to start doing is persecuting the accuser. There's gotta be, did you accuse somebody lately? Nigga, just drop something. Say, not me. I ain't know what persecute is. But I'm just saying, there's gotta be some consequence. You couldn't just be able to just charge somebody with an allegation and then just go scot-free. Oh, never mind, drop the charges, I'll go back to my life. And I was anonymous.
Like he was straight up like, y'all just let people say whatever without checking them, and that's part of the problem. Omar wanted them to hold folks accountable, especially when they're sitting there saying things that are straight up cap. He wasn't about to let them off the hook either. He wanted everyone to know that giving a platform to lies is just as bad as telling them yourself. So Omar has been in the spotlight lately, and it's partly because of his brother Cuba Gooding Jr. Ever since his stunt with Diddy and the fact that Diddy's laundry is getting aired, it's no wonder that people want to get to the bottom of this. Not too long ago, Cuba found his name thrown into the middle of Diddy's legal drama, and the details are straight up crazy. Cuba got hit with some heat in an updated lawsuit filed by Lil Rod back in March 2024. Rods came through with some serious accusations claiming Diddy groomed him for all kinds of shady stuff, and then handed him off to his so-called friends, and that list includes Cuba. Lil Rod says things went down on Diddy's yacht in the US Virgin Islands in January 2023. According to the lawsuit, Cuba was out here acting way out of pocket, groping and touching places he had no business touching. Now Cuba ain't just sitting back and letting this slide. He went on the PBD podcast in May 2024 and called these allegations the craziest thing he's ever heard.
What do you think's going on with all the stuff with Diddy, with Little Rod, with, all the stories that everybody's hearing about?
You mean in terms of what?
I mean, being raiding his house being raided.
I mean, that's crazy. That's the craziest thing I'd ever. And then, hey, how about me? I wake up in the morning, I turn on the Today Show, and actor Cuba Gooding Jr. I was like, excuse me, pull me into this.
He even talked about how he first met Diddy through his girlfriend, Claudine D'Amatos, who used to handle PR for Diddy. That was back in 2019, so this whole timeline got people raising eyebrows. And you already know his legal team came out swinging. They're calling Lil Rod's story pure fiction and saying it's nothing but lies. They're standing firm on the idea that Cuba had nothing to do with any of this nonsense. But people aren't really buying Cuba's story. One person said he displays all the classic signs of a liar: deflect, deny, and distance himself. And another person said he is part of the party people, liar or not, and that's up to you to decide. However, all of this is tied to Diddy's bigger legal mess. The man's already neck deep in lawsuits, investigations, and accusations flying in from all directions. And let's not forget, this is still a civil case. Cuba hasn't been charged with any crimes here. It's all allegations for now. Still, you gotta admit, the timing of all this feels kinda sus. Diddy's got federal heat on him, multiple lawsuits piling up, and now Cuba's name is being dragged into the mix. Bottom line, this whole thing's a tangled web of allegations, and it's hard to tell who's lying, who's telling the truth, and who's just trying to keep their name out of the headlines. But one thing's for sure, when Daddy's name is involved, you know it's gonna be messy. And speaking of lies, let's talk about how Diddy and Jay-Z fit into all this. Omar didn't name drop them for no reason. He hinted that the industry's power players, like Diddy and Jay, know how to play the game. They're untouchable in some ways because they've got the money, the connections, and the influence to bury anything that could ruin their image. But with everything coming out about Diddy recently, lawsuits, trafficking allegations, and all that messy stuff, it's getting harder for him to hide. Omar's comments about accusers skating by unchecked hit different when you think about Diddy's situation. The dude's been at the center of some serious allegations, and while the cases are still unraveling, it's wild to see how much power and influence he still holds. And Jay-Z, man, people have been side-eyeing him for years. Whether it's his fallout with Dame Dash or the way he's been accused of stepping on people to stay on top, there's always some drama surrounding him. Now, let's bring it back to Cuba. Omar didn't say his brother was clean, but he also didn't throw him under the bus. Instead, he brought up how the entertainment industry is this crazy web where everybody's connected, and sometimes the people who get dragged through the mud aren't even the ones pulling the strings. Cuba's name has been tied to Diddy and Jay-Z over the years, and while Omar didn't spill all the tea, he gave enough to make people wonder. The thing about Omar, though, is that he wasn't just defending his family, he was trying to wake people up. This isn't just about his brother or Jaguar or even Diddy and Jay-Z, it's about the whole system. They let these folks say whatever they want and nobody ever calls them out when they're wrong, he said, shaking his head at how messy things have gotten. And let's be real, he's not wrong. The entertainment world loves drama, and people eat it up without questioning where it's coming from or if it's even true. Omar also called out the way the media and public play into this. He was like, y'all love to focus on the loudest voice in the room even if they're full of it. Jaguar Wright is the perfect example. She's dropped some crazy claims over the years, and while some of it turned out to be legit, a lot of it didn't, but people don't care. They just want the tea and they don't bother to check if it's piping hot or stale. And then there's the elephant in the room, accountability. Omar was like, look, if you're gonna let folks talk their talk, at least hold them to the same standard you're holding everybody else to. He wasn't just talking about accusers either. He was looking at the industry as a whole. The power players like Diddy and Jay-Z might be in hot water now, but how many years did they get away with running things their way? It's a cycle, and Omar made it clear he's tired of seeing the same BS play out over and over. By the end of the interview, Omar had everybody rethinking how they see the entertainment world. He didn't just talk about his brother or throw shade at Jaguar, he made people question the whole game. And whether you agree with him or not, you gotta admit, the man came with facts and didn't sugarcoat a thing. So where does that leave us? Well, Diddy and Jay-Z are still facing heat, Jaguar's still out here spilling tea, and Cuba's name is still in the mix. But Omar, he's made his point loud and clear: don't believe everything you hear, and don't let people off the hook just because they've got a platform. At the end of the day, it's like Omar said, you gotta look at the bigger picture. And in this case, the picture's looking real messy, but at least someone's out here trying to clean it up.